what I have found is, and this should encourage some of you who are residential assisted living owners and smaller independently owned owners, that in senior living, just because it is the highest priced location, who advertise luxury and resort like, does not mean they have systems in place to support those claims and or their cost. Do I need to say that again?
Welcome to Start with Occupancy, the podcast for senior living owners, operators, and sales professionals. Hi, I'm Tiffany, marketing strategist and former corporate baddie who got tired of producing results for Wall Street and wanted to make a change on Main Street. I provide quick tips, idea nuggets, and case studies to help you with proven sales, marketing, and business development strategies along with leadership concepts, so that you can inspire change, impact lives, and improve outcomes for the aging, their families, and your teams. I'm committed to equipping you with the tools, the knowledge, and resources that you need to excel in your business. With over 12 years of experience working inside senior living companies, large and small, I've developed a deep passion for advocating for the aging adult and those who care for them, all while driving business growth. So whether you're already in the senior care industry or maybe you would like to be, if your mission is to serve them, my mission is to serve you. Join me as we unravel the strategies and tactics that drive success in your business while making a difference in someone's life. The goal in 2024 is to touch, guide, and impact the lives of 10 families per month. Are you with me? It's time to be inspired, gain practical tips, and own your future.
Hey there, welcome back to the 21 Days, All Things Senior Living, and this is day number 5. So if you're going on with me in the series, you know that we have been really trying to double down on things that matter when it comes to marketing and sales and the process of increasing your move-in conversions. At the end of the day, the goal, I used to tell my team, is to be at 100% with a wait list. So if you're in corporate, there is nothing better than having a 100% fully occupied community with a wait list and create it in such a situation that when the person moves out one day, you have somebody else moving in the very next day. And that means that turnover of the room or apartment needs to be scheduled. There's so much that has to happen to make that a reality. But it can be done. I've had it done with a few of my communities. One in particular had, let me get it right, I believe she had 9 months with no lost revenue days. That meant when a move out happened, she had somebody lined up to move in the very next day. So that is how you do it. All of a sudden, Montel Jordan just came rushing to my head. I don't know. That's how I think. I think in songs. And hopefully you do too, because that makes life fun. So day 5 is actually the move-in process and supporting a smooth transition, right? Let's hop right into it. We call move-ins when we have a family who has already either deposited or paid their community fee. They have either done their paperwork or in the process of doing their paperwork, have the actual assessment and paperwork from a physician if they are in memory care or assisted living. Obviously, independent living, they don't need to have that, but maybe they have put in their notice of wherever they were living before, if it was an apartment or sold their condo. There's so many different things depending on the scenario. I'm going to give you a high level look at making sure you have a smooth move in. So when I go into my group programs, we go and dive a lot deeper. Every single thing that we're talking about, I'm giving you guys pretty much a list, like what it is, how it is, steps that you can use, things that you can use and start today. But if you want to go much more deeper, then our accelerator program will probably be the best thing for you because you get 1 whole year of support. Oh, can you imagine that? A whole year of support. So we'll talk about that later. But right now, the question is, why is a smooth transition vital to your community? When someone is coming from home and they're moving into your community, whether it's by way of going through the hospital or whether it's by way of going through skilled nursing or directly from home, the reason why this transition is so vital is because your highest risk for an actual move out from the resident or family dissatisfaction, customer service failures, and issues happen within the first 30 days. And typically, it can be within the first 90. So, in the big box communities, we measure and look at the move out rate within the first 30 and for sure the first 90 days of moving in because it tells different stories. And depending on what that number is and what percentage of move-ins are moving out within that period of time, it is now a trigger for further deep dive investigation. Are we moving in and assessing the right match, where the resident is more care than when they first move in? Are we not doing enough discovery and we're not finding out there's deeper situations going on and we're not doing full assessments correctly? There's so many narratives that can happen, and that's where we dig deep and dive in. But the first thing we need to do is to look at the state of the family caregiver when they're moving in. We have to keep in mind when we're looking at family caregivers is what are they feeling at this time? And what is the resident feeling at this time? We need to then create a move-in process that's going to quell and ease those feelings. So what does that look like? I'm going to break it down for you. No worries. Let's start with family caregiver. These are high-level things that a family caregiver may be feeling. Guilt. Can you say amen? Yes, guilt. Stress, because as a caregiver, there's automatic stress in that the system doesn't make it easy, at least in Florida, for people to move in, depending on the company that you work for, too. That also doesn't make it easy if you are a sales professional. If you are a private owner, the things that you're needing. A lot of this is just the stuff that you need. You can't help it. You need the medication list. You need the doctor's plan of care or signature on the admission form. If this is assisted living and memory care, if it is independent living, that's pretty much more straightforward because it's just basically signing a rental contract. But if you're not careful, you can still get caught because how many times have I seen where very aggressive independent living folks have moved in a resident who really, really, really should be in memory care? That happens because sometimes questions, again, in the discovery process, that's why questions are so important. If you need to know more about that, go back to a few episodes. We talk about that. But that's where those questions come in. And that's where visiting the people in their homes or having them come see you and visiting your community, again, that's on the prior episode, go back a couple. And these are the reasons why that's important. I had it where someone moved into an independent living community and had what presented to be early stage dementia, no issues, not a risk of anything. And that first night, bam, sundowning happened, and it was like independent living, they're not equipped for that. They don't have secured areas. So you have these things that happen. If you're in assisted living, there's deeper paperwork, right? And I know that was a long way of saying there's a lot of stress that goes in with the move in, and there's a lot of emotions that go with the move in with the guilt. Then there is anxiety. What's going to happen? I'm not sure about this. There's the doubt. We have to remember that this is what families are going through. Some families will experience relief and they're excited about it. Other families will be actually happy and residents. So we have to understand that too. And other times, especially in independent living, residents aren't typically happy about moving in. They're like excited about this new chapter in their lives. So it just really depends. A lot of times people think, retirement home, quote unquote, or senior living is what we really now call it. It has to be all need-based or it's assisted living, but there's so many other types of living arrangements. Depending on what's happening, people have a different range of emotions. One thing is to acknowledge that and understand that, and then to create your systems and your processes around that, making sure that we are reducing or minimizing the amount of anxiety, uncertainty, guilt, stress. Like, I feel like that is our duty is to do those things. If we have a very well supported process throughout and then drop the ball at move-in, it can erode and do away all the goodwill that we did in the beginning, right? Again, having that well supported move-in process leading up to and including the day of and following after the move in is how we can ensure long term satisfaction with the clients and provide an amazing customer experience. So I just want you guys to think about, where have you gone that you had this amazing experience that you could not stop talking about? Some companies really focus in on that, like the Ritz-Carlton. Everybody knows that, right? Or if you go to, let's say, a Mercedes or Lexus dealer, like they have certain services when you're getting your car fixed or maintained. What I have found is, and this should encourage some of you who are residential assisted living owners and smaller independently owned owners, that in senior living, just because it is the highest priced location, who advertise luxury and resort like, does not mean they have systems in place to support those claims and or their cost. Do I need to say that again? I want to say that because I think it's really important you as an independent business owner understand that in this arena, being smaller, you can be the Ritz-Carlton inside this niche, because you would be surprised at the level of not being prepared. A lot of these larger communities are, they don't have, if they have the processes in place, is the local management following them? And do they have the right staff training to make sure that happens? I'm saying that because this is where you can really shine. This is where the reviews that go out to Google and the shareable things on social media from families can really kick in for you when you deliver this white glove service to families, because they're not going to get it typically, more so in the corporate, even the larger communities, and what you would think that they would have in place. I say that to encourage you. You got this, you guys. You got this. You can make a huge impact just in this one area. The number one thing is prep with your team. You want your team to know ahead of time when a move-in is scheduled to take place. From the time that that family says yes, what I used to do, and I can give you a template, but there was an email that I sent out. And for those who work in a larger community, this might be more for you, but I would say in a smaller community, you can do this as well. But I sent an email out to my executive director, to the business office director, and to the clinical director. If you have a residential assisted living, of course, you don't have all those different positions, and it's a lot easier because you're in a home. But if your staff member is not working that day and you have somebody who moved in and they don't know anything about them, it can cause an awkward interaction if it's over a weekend. You just want everybody to be on the same page. So how do you do that? I used to do a cute little flyer, and I would put the incoming resident's name, what room they would be in, and I would then put the top 5 things or 7 things that I thought was important for the staff to know about that person. She was the first builder in our city. She raised 5 boys. She traveled the world or whatever. And I'm saying she because I'm thinking of a specific resident. But those are the things. And I would make sure that every staff member had that and it was hung up also in the employee break room. I actually created a bulletin board in the employee area where they all went to have their meetings, and copier was there and all that stuff. And I put it in there, put it on every med cart. I just made sure everyone knew this person was coming in and what they needed to know about that person. The email that went to those 3 people had the detailed information about the move-in, meaning what room they were going to be in, the date that they were going to move in physically, what date they were going to take possession financially. I also had who was the POA, who was the healthcare surrogate, any incentives that I offered. It was a whole email template. What it did, it reduced the friction and the annoying thing when you're in your stand-up meetings, I would tell everybody, and then somebody would inevitably say, I didn't know it was going to be today. And then they would have an attitude. You know, if you worked in senior living and you were in sales, you know what I'm talking about. You know what I'm talking about. And so, yes, it's on the whiteboard though. And yes, we talked about it all week. And then some people would be like, oh, well, I didn't know. I was out that day or whatever. Stopped it. So the way I did it is by putting everything into an email and I outlined it. I will put a link to what that email template looked like for you and in the show notes. This is how I did it. I did it for my team. So as long as they were using this, they had leverage to say, no, everybody knew this lady or this man was moving in on this day. Prep with your team. Second is, can you tell if I'm very passionate about that? Arrival coordination. You want to make sure that you give your families the window. Sometimes you have to be the driver of this. I'll tell you a story. Um, I learned early the importance of giving the families the window of time to move in because I wanted the resident to have the best experience. If a resident moves in at 6 o'clock at night, it's just not going to provide for a really good experience for the families. So I would tell the family, okay, on move-in day, these are the hours of move-in. These are the hours that you can move into furniture. The one thing that you don't want to do is have people move in, especially if you're in assisted living or memory care, in the evening when you're not able to get all the medications or your clinical person or your med tech is not there to organize the meds and pass the meds to them for their 6 o'clock or their evening med pass. I usually had the cutoff time between 2 and 3 o'clock, closer to the 2 o'clock, so that we could make sure that every staff member who was vital in their care could say hello, or they had a good welcome. We could make sure all the meds are in-house and that our clinical director can do all of the assessments that need to happen when they move in. Every state is different on how they do that. But one thing we used to do, or we have to do in Florida, is a skin integrity test. And why is that important? Because while, yes, you go and do the assessment, between the time of the assessment and time of move-in, do they have a pressure wound? Or in one resident we did, she actually had physical marks on her body when her husband was moving her in. And there was a concern that there was more sinister stuff going on because of where the marks were located. There's so much when it comes to this that I don't think average investors really understand that these are people's lives and these are real life things that happen. And you get to see a lot in senior care. So you want that arrival coordination, telling I'm telling, but coordinating with the families on the timing for moving the furniture, which door do they move in, if you have multiple entry locations, if you have a certain location for where furniture comes in, all of that is a part of the move-in process. Then I would get with the family to find out what time they were coming in to move the furniture, what time they were bringing the resident, because I would have something different for them that time compared to the furniture time. I would also find out if they have any allergies, anything that's going on. And this is the family, not the resident. And if they liked certain foods, because I would have a lunch ready for them while they're in the process of moving. A lot of times they're not taking a break to eat. They're stressed. We are here to help reduce their stress and their anxiety. So I would get with our dining services director and our kitchen staff, and I'm like, I need to have a lunch made for such and such family. And I would find out how many people is going to help them with the move and be in the transition and be involved to be with mom or dad. And then we would make that happen. Sometimes the moves would happen over lunch. So then I would have the resident, while the family is moving the furniture, the resident come in, have lunch, and I would do the buddy system, which we're going to talk about later, and have them sit with their new buddy at lunch and get to know some of the other residents while the family was doing all the stuff on the back end. There's so many ways to do it. And if you join me on our group program, you'll find out a lot more detail, but that is how that works. Then the team introductions, when the resident come in, team introductions is the other segment of that. How do we get the teams to introduce themselves? And they need to introduce themselves to the residents, but then, and also to the families, obviously. Hopefully the team has already introduced themselves to the family throughout this whole journey. So the family knows who the maintenance director is or who this person is throughout the process. And of course, if you're in a larger community, if you're in a residential, having to know the rest of your staff is what you want them to do. At the end of the day, doing those introductions, those welcomes, things like that is really impactful. Next here is helping to teach the essentials. They used to give the residents a whole welcome packet. And so in that packet was, who do you call or how do you call if you need help if you fall? If you have a light bulb that's out, how do you get in contact with that person? If you need the TV set up with the remote control, that was always something. So if they brought their own television, connecting their remote control with the streaming service and all that other stuff, that was usually one of the bigger things that happened. Making sure that they understand that, they have to have their hangers and just all little things like, that's a part of the prepping, is preparing the family too, all the things that they need. One of the things I used to do, and I'll have a link down for my Amazon, but is fabric markers, having the family write their name inside of the clothes, especially if you're in a larger community. You want to make sure that even though the clothes are washed separately and everyone's own load gets done one at a time, there's still things that happen. And so you want to make sure that that person's clothes are labeled. This is, again, assisted living and memory care. And independent, usually they will have their own washer and dryer and stuff that they use. But a fabric marker, the ink won't bleed. Knowing and showing that resident and the family the essentials on how to navigate living there, the times for breakfast, lunch, and dinner, and all this happens in that welcome packet. Okay. You want that first night frequent check-ins if it's assisted and memory care. If it's independent living, they're independent. You don't have to worry about it. Independent living is so much different. So some of the things I'm talking about is going to be more specifically for assisted and memory care, but just understand that you can take some of these same ideas, like the welcome packet is a must for independent living. Knowing when is lunch, what the event calendar is, and making sure that's inside for independent living. Having them sign up for the bridge club and all that stuff. Like that is independent living, letting them know maybe a list of the clubs and having them check off what their interest levels are so that they know what is going on in the community based on their interests. And then that way they can get a text alert when that particular activity is about to start. Like there's certain things that you could do in independent that is very, very similar and provide that same level of service that we're talking about even for assisted and memory care. So in assisted and memory care, frequent first night check-ins, because this is a strange place for that person. We want them to feel comfortable. That is why we do that first night check-ins. And then the next thing is the next morning support. Again, they haven't been there for a full 24 hours yet. They never woke up into this new location. Sometimes getting them oriented and saying, breakfast is now being served, or giving them their morning meds if you're doing assisted and memory care. For independent living, again, they're on their own, but having someone to be there to welcome them at breakfast. If you provide breakfast for your independent living community, those are all great things to do. The family coordination, is making sure the family have proper expectations. Where I see the most, we call them service failures, or we call it service failures in the industry, but dissatisfaction, customer complaints, right? When you have the most of that is when there's a breakdown in communication. If there is no thought process on the front end that's proactive, then everything you're doing on the back end is going to be reactive. And it's too late in reactive mode, meaning that if a family comes to you and say, Mom never got her breakfast, well, you go and you find out, well, that's because I didn't tell the breakfast team that she moved in a day early. I never told them. So now you're in reactive mode because now you have to deal with a really hot family member. And now you have to react quickly. You have to quell the concerns of the residents. And there's a whole host of things that happen. And I can tell you story after story after story about stuff that if you don't address things immediately, it can make something so small, a minor mistake, seem so large. This again is where you guys can really shine. The other thing I talked about earlier is the buddy system. When I am talking to a prospective resident and we're going through the process of me learning about them throughout the whole journey, I'm always thinking, who is in my community that this person would really have a good time with? Who's going to be their buddy? If you're in a smaller community, you have a limited number of options, but this is where you can pull people together and make the new person come in feel like they are a part of the family, right? And I said that in air quotes. You can't see that on a radio, on your iPad or iPod. Oh my God, on your iPhone is what I was trying to say. But who's a part of the family, and how are you going to welcome that family in, and what is that white glove kit service that you're going to do for them? I remember one time I had somebody who came in from a particular city in England. And I remembered we had a resident who grew up in England. When she came in, even before she decided to move in, and I invited her for lunch, she came in and met me for the first time because I met with a son the first time. That's what happens a lot of times in visits. The family member comes first, and then they bring their loved one who's going to be moving in. So when they brought the lady, I said, great news. I have this lady. Her name is, let's say Miss Sue or whatever. And she is also from England. And she said she would love to have lunch with you. Are you okay with that? And I would love for the two of you guys to maybe to get to know each other. And she was like, oh my God, yes. And so I set it up, or had pre-set it up already. So all she had to do was go in, and I introduced the two women. They sat down and the woman moved in. So there's so many different cool things that you could do. But when they move in, just trying to find out that buddy system. It might be even one of your staff members if you're smaller. Who's going to be the staff member that's going to be the buddy for all new residents that come into your community? Or all of you going to be that new buddy. However you decide to do it, the idea is just to do it. So what am I going to give you at the end of this? What is going to be like the little present for you is a welcome kit checklist. If you click on the link down below, if you are on YouTube, or in the show notes, if you're listening on the podcast, then you will be able to download the checklist for a welcome kit. We did it, guys. The one thing I forgot, I apologize because I clicked over it and I didn't see it. The welcome present. Let's roll it back. We most definitely should do some type of housewarming welcome present for the resident, whether it's independent living, assisted living, or memory care. Something that says, welcome to the community. It can be as personalized as their favorite pie or cake. It can be as personalized as their favorite team, and it has all the goodies that's in there. Let's say they're a Florida State fan. I'm just saying. Or Gator. I'm just saying, you can put Gator stuff in there. Or you can do like the essentials gift basket, little snacks and treats and things like that for when they're wanting to snack on their first, week there. There's so many ways to do it to make it where it's very personalized to that person, but having some type of welcome gift inside of their apartment and or room that says welcome, balloons, something that just, again, that's a part of that white glove service. That is amazing. And that is something most definitely, I'm so sorry I forgot to mention that you should have as a part of your move in process. Now we have wrapped it up. And I thank you so very much for listening. I appreciate your time. I am looking forward to hearing from you on how you implemented any of these things to help with creating a smoother move-in process. If you like all of this and you want to go way, way deeper, we have a 12-month program that is just for you if you are within your first 2 years of business or under 50% occupied. My goal is to not only have you at 100%, but with a wait list and to have you confident leading your business and your staff, meaning that you will know exactly how to maneuver in your business for a whole year. And that is through the Compass Rose Excel Accelerator program that is coming out for you, launching very soon. Because guess what? We have a new year coming. I appreciate any reviews. Please send us a review on Apple Podcasts. That helps other people learn more about me because then it will be pushed out to people who's looking or who's in our niche. And if you know other people who can benefit from the information that I am sharing here on the podcast or on the YouTube channel, please send it to them. There's so much opportunity. Don't be that person. um, we like to play nice in the sandbox, is what I say. And I feel like the more you give, the more things that are great come back to you. So if you know someone else who is in the industry and who's struggling or who not struggling, but they would probably enjoy hearing these little tips, let them know, but also send me your feedback because I read each and every review. Thank you so much, and I hope you have a wonderful day.